What's up, Taiwan? Good morning. I'm Leslie Liao with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. President Tsai Ing-wen has announced 4 new pandemic prevention strategies as Taiwan shifts to living with COVID-19. Yu Jinghuang has more.
President Tsai Ing-wen visited the Centers for Disease Control on Tuesday as new COVID-19 prevention measures took effect in Taiwan. She warned that the worst is yet to come in the country's biggest outbreak yet of COVID-19. Tuesday saw 6,295 new cases.
我们目前的疫情还没有达到高峰，本土的疫情将会持续的升温，每天新增的确诊数也将持续的增加。那很多人可能会觉得病毒好像离自己越来越近，但我是要告诉大家，到目前为止，这波本土的疫情从年初到今天，确诊者有99.68%左右是轻症或者是无症状。
Tsai also announced 4 new pandemic strategies that she says will ensure a functioning economy. Hospitals will now only take in high-risk patients and people with severe symptoms. Taiwan is also shifting to more rapid testing. Tsai says the government has ordered 30 million rapid tests from local manufacturers, with 20 million arriving by mid-May. They're also buying rapid tests from overseas. As for contact tracing, Tsai says the process has been simplified. Only close contacts of people who test positive will have to isolate. As for the 4th measure, it's something that health officials have been calling for months: to get everyone vaccinated. Alex Chen, Yu Jinghuang, and Andrew Ryan for TaiwanPlus.
The Foreign Correspondents Club of Hong Kong has suspended a prestigious journalism award. That's due to fears they could be persecuted under the territory's sweeping national security law. The annual Human Rights Press Award recognizes top rights-related reporting from around Asia. The club's president said in a letter that they are axing the awards due to, quote, significant areas of legal uncertainty. One of the organizations set to win several awards this year was Hong Kong's Stand News. National Security Police forced that website to close down last year. A new survey by Taipei-based NGO Doublethink Labs is measuring China's influence in foreign countries. Their China in the World Index is the first report to look at that influence across multiple sectors in society. Our reporter Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick spoke with Doublethink Labs director Puma Shen.
I think media is the most influenced domain in terms of Chinese interference. And I think the reason why I think lots of people expect that Taiwan could be #1 over here, but because we measure the effects of Chinese interference and because we got lots of resilience, we got civil society and our governments, they are kind of resilient to Chinese interference. So which means that we don't have that much effects here in Taiwan. And that's why we didn't rank #1 over here. I mean, in terms of the traditional media, because of anti-red media movement, means that there's less interference for the traditional media. However, if you like social media, China is really good at disseminating all this disinformation on social media. And also they're really good at approaching not just the traditional media itself, but the individual journalists. So if individual journalists join the training or receive pressure from China, it also counts as the Chinese interference. And that happened a lot here in Taiwan.
You look at exposure to Chinese influence, pressure from China, and the effect of that pressure. So I was wondering, is there any link that you saw between those 3? Does more influence necessarily result in more tangible results?
We expect that if you're exposed to Chinese interference, and it means that you'll get more pressure, but it doesn't happen in each domain. So which means that, for example, in economy, if you have more connections, if you're exposed to Chinese influence, and you got more pressure. But in the military domain, it doesn't happen. So it really depends on which domain we're talking about. However, I mean, even that there are lots of countries like Japan or the US receive lots of pressure from China, it doesn't mean that they're going to change their behavior or if there's anything change on their side. So that's why we also measure the effects of all these countries.
And in terms of different regions of the world, did you see any interesting trends in terms of where China is concentrating its influence? Is it focusing more on regional neighbors or trying to win influence in the West?
I think it really depends. For example, if you look at the Western country, I think China focuses a lot on academia and also like think tanks. But if you look like countries like Cambodia or like countries there in Africa, they didn't really focus on academics, but rather on other side of like economics or military stuff. People often criticize that there are lots of organizations or even journalists or experts or scholars, they kind of underestimate or sometimes overestimate or sensationalize Chinese interference. So I think it's time for us to quantify this kind of interference and let the world know like precisely like in which domain, in what field they have been affected by China. And then we'll have, because in each indicator we'll have the proof for that. So that's why everybody could be on the same page and we can discuss like Chinese interference with scientific facts.
Taiwan is home to more than 600,000 migrant workers, the majority from Indonesia. Often they serve as caretakers. As they adjust to a new life in Taiwan, language can be a challenge. One organization is looking to help them settle in. Jaime Okan has this story.
Seeing each other in person for the first time since the pandemic, these migrant workers from Indonesia are headed back to class. For the next 6 months, students like Fatma will be learning Mandarin to better adjust to life in Taiwan. Fatma has been a caregiver here for 7 years, and this is how she spends her 1 day off a week.
我第一次来从印尼的过来，我不会说话，不会讲话，好像都很困难，不会说。跟老板，然后幸好有140，可以我读书，可以我上课，然后可以教我怎么看台湾的讲话。
Taiwan is home to over 680,000 migrant workers, the majority of whom come from Indonesia. And while Indonesian men dominate sectors like manufacturing and fishing, Indonesian women often take jobs as caregivers, which puts them in daily contact with the local population. For the last 7 years, language classes like this one have been organized by a group called 140, so named because 1 in every 40 people in the country is a migrant worker.
那个时候，140看见说，我们希望让移工在台湾有一个学习的机会，来好好的学习语言，然后认识朋友。除了认识同样的移工朋友以外，他也认识很多台湾朋友，跟台湾人有更多的交流。那也希望他们在140可以有很好的学习跟体验。那他回去他的自己的国家的以后，他也会记得说，在台湾是一个很好的回忆。
140 also offers free Chinese lessons online, with over 70,000 active users. And the group hosts cultural events to give migrant workers the opportunity to socialize with locals. But beyond the socials, migrants like Nadia are just happy to learn. She has worked in Taiwan for over 10 years and is now one of the more advanced students in the class. She hopes that she can put these lessons to use even after she returns home.
因为我在这里都喜欢中文，也学习中文，所以以后如果回印尼，我想要开那个中文的补习班，这样才能我学好的中文，以后可以教给别人，教给需要的人。
Over 20,000 migrant workers have graduated from this program since it started in 2015. And like those before them, these students are optimistic that a proper grasp of the language will help them feel less isolated and more empowered for life in Taiwan. Chris Ma and Jaime Okan for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we'll leave you with images of a cafe in Dubai catering special-made treats for dogs and cats after a rough day. I'm Liao. Take care and see you next time.